One, and we're live.
All
Very,
right.
very prompt. Welcome, everybody, to A Nice Place to Brew. I'm Jason.
And I'm George.
I'm Becky.
And we welcome Becky to the show for the first time. Hello, Becky.
Hello.
Hello. Becky is in training to be a Cicerone. Am I saying that correctly?
Yes. I think so.
Oh, is this around?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I have lots of questions on this subject, and I'm very excited you got to join. So.
Okay. I have my cheat sheet, my starter cards. I don't even know if you can see those, but and then the expansion pack. It's very exciting.
Okay.
Okay.
Good deal. Paulie will be joining us in a second, but first the formalities. We do the webcast here every Thursday. It's available on Facebook and YouTube. Our YouTube page has all of our past episodes. We've been doing weekly episodes for now over a year, and our YouTube page has all of our past episodes. If you can check out our videos, if you can like and subscribe, it really helps the webcast. So please do. We thank you in advance for it. Our website is www.aniceplacetobrew.com. Social media links are A Nice Place to Brew and Nice Place to Brew. And last but not least, we have an audio podcast under the same name, A Nice Place to Brew, that's available on all the audio podcasting platforms. Check us out there. There's lots of content there. All things beer and beer making is the content here on the webcast and on the podcast. So check us out. And one last thing. Wait, hold on. What am I forgetting? Yeah, I was going to throw something in. Okay, I'll throw it in when I think of it. All right.
Fled away.
Yes, exactly. All right. Oh, yes. What is everybody drinking tonight?
All right. Becky, why don't we start with you?
Sure.
Okay. So I actually brought the bottle. I am drinking Amagan, the pale sour. I'm super in love with it, and the chaser is Hoplark. I'm obsessed with hop tea from Hoplark. It is so good.
Okay.
There's no alcohol in it, so I can drink it, but it's still like a good I should not say that I'm a hop head, but I kind of am. And
Right.
it's like it's so nice. I don't know. It's just, and to drink something that you get the hops and the carbonation, the FNF. Yeah, I can't say that word. Yeah. But no alcohol, so you could drink it and not have to worry about a hangover, and I'm good.
Okay. Me, today I have Hazy Like a Fox.
Ooh.
IPA from New Realm Brewing. I've talked about this before. I am usually the opposite of a hop head, a malt head, if you will.
Love it.
But this is a New England juicy style IPA, hazy IPA that is just fruit forward and super delicious. So I like it quite a bit.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Jason, what about yourself?
So sticking with the hazy theme, I have a beer that's called Fuzzy Britches. And it's from a brewery here in the Chicagoland area. This is from St. Aaron Brewing out of Evanston. And the hop combination is not stated on the can, so I can't tell you. It's a double dry hop, double IPA, 7.4%. And as you can see here in the glass, there is plenty of haze there.
So this one, they do say it's Azeka, Eldorado, Mosaic, and Citra.
Oh, nice. A little citrusy, kind of little chewy there. I love that.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So we're all some familiarity with the hop combinations. You knew right away. That's a citrus combination. Excellent. All right.
Goals.
All right. So let's just go right into it. You're in training to be a Cicerone, and this is the type of content that they bring to you guys. Is that right?
Yes. Okay. So to be a Cicerone, it's like there's multiple layers. So first layer. Sorry,
Becky,
go.
Sorry, one second. So Cicerone, Jason and I obviously are like keying in on that, but your average viewer that may happen upon this video may go, what the hell's a Cicerone and why are they so excited? So can you start there a little bit? Like, what is a Cicerone and what are you training to become?
Yes. Okay. So the easiest comparison I've I tell people it's kind of a beer sommelier. And
Okay.
actually, the Siebel Institute actually has a course that's similar, because Cicerone's actually a school.
Okay.
So the Siebel Institute also has a beer sommelier program, and which means that I'm becoming an expert. Well, not hopefully, I will be an expert in hop profiles, tasting, mainly with food, pairing food and beer together, maintaining those off flavors and going to beer festivals and judging, really just owning the whole body beer experience. You want to make sure that my whole job would be to make sure that the consumer is getting what the brewer had in mind when they order that beer, and that's really important to me.
Okay.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Because
Yeah.
my first craft beer was infected, and I didn't like
Ooh.
beer. It was okay. So picture this: 1990, blah 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 blah. And I was at Navy Pier, and sorry, Navy Pier, I'm sure this is never going to happen again. I got a Sam Adams summer shandy, and I was like, oh, this seems lovely. I got corn dog. I drink it. It tastes buttery. I'm like,
Ooh.
what is wrong? Something's wrong. So from that on, I was like kind of scared to try beer. And then I started doing theater in the city, Foster and Clark, which I don't know if anyone knows. There's a lovely restaurant called Hop Leaf, which was right across the street from my theater. So that is where I learned all of the Belgian styles and all of the love and talking with the bartenders there, and really getting to know like the food scene and like the beer scene and how those two could really like pair up. So that is my beer hero origin story.
Nice. Yeah. Well, I mean, we kind of started from similar backgrounds. My first, love of craft beer, which I still classify them this way, was Sam Adams myself, but it was a good experience as opposed to, unfortunately, what you had. Did you get that out of a draft or out of a bottle?
Yeah, so I think the draft lines was just old and not cleaned very well. And it's Navy Pier.
I think that's probably the case.
In
okay.
light.
Yeah. So, but yeah, similar origin stories, if you will. So,
Yes.
So anyway, you were saying. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Jason.
It was that apparent that it was infected.
It was just tasted like I was drinking buttered popcorn, and I'm like, okay, that's not a beer. I know there's something wrong.
Yeah, it's not a summer shandy profile at all.
No,
so.
like this is lemon on it. This does not say, but
yeah,
movie theater time. So like something's wrong, and then I didn't learn until later that was actually the beer was infected,
right,
or an off flavor.
So are you attending Siebel yourself?
I'm attending cicerone.org right now.
Okay.
There's multiple levels. I'm at the certified beer server level.
Okay.
That is online, and then in the summer in August I'll be doing the certified Cicerone class, which is in order to. So once you pass that class, that test is 4 hours long, with a tasting portion, pairing portion, draft maintenance, and how to take apart a draft system and clean it properly, and I think there's like a couple essay questions in regards to that. So, and then there's certified, advanced, and then master. There's only about maybe 100, a little under 200 master cicerones, and there's I can't like 7 women. So
oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I'm gonna get there. It'll take me a while, but I'm gonna get there.
How long is this whole journey?
This is gonna be a couple years.
Okay.
So
Okay.
just because, unfortunately, I mean, unless someone wants to hire me to work at a brewery.
So a master sommelier, which is the same for those of you who don't know, is the same kind of deal, but for wine. They, they know wine intimately. They know how to pair it and things like that. Master sommelier can pretty much write their ticket in fancy restaurants across the country.
Oh,
Is it
absolutely.
a similar situation with Master Cicerones?
Yes, and actually it's becoming more and more popular, especially there are certain restaurants in Chicagoland that are actually kind of will help fund to get that certification. Definitely Moody Tongue is all in on this idea, which I love. But the craft beer culture is growing. You guys know that as well as I do. So I feel like more breweries are taking that certification and more importance, because you want to take care of your beer. I mean, let's just be real. It's a living breathing, thing. You want to take care of it. Yeah. And and everyone's like, I actually have the most respect for the big brew houses, because they are consistent to have that. I mean, yes, they do blending. Let's just be for real. Mm-hmm. But they are consistent on a day-to-day basis. But the smaller craft beers, we get to play, which is the best. So I want to make sure that to highlight the beer, and also, I don't know, bring more people in. I mean, not all craft beer is only for the I like hops. There's so many different styles that people are like, I don't like beer. I'm like, just try this. I call Allagash White my gateway drug. To
I
craft beer.
That.
So it shouldn't be intimidating. And I feel like if people are going to go to a fine dining restaurant, I want a beer to be an option, not only a Zinfandel. You know what I mean? So,
sure.
And I also want to eventually work with some of my people in the pastry world to do kind of a beer and dessert pairing kind of thing. And we've been kind of been working on that with some of my chef friends. So
interesting.
It's coming.
I mean, other than stout infused cakes and things like that, typically what your thought process is beer and dessert should be two separate things. Beer and ice cream, not as much go together very well.
I challenge thee.
I am apparently wrong.
I challenge thee to a north wind float.
A north wind float.
Yes. Okay. It's an imperial stout made by two brothers with vanilla ice cream. It'll change your mind.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm in.
Okay, so
I'm in.
So,
I'm
all in.
That sounds awesome.
And Brian, who is a loyal listener, says milkshake IPA. So I put milkshake IPAs in a different category, because that's infusing lactose in a beer. That's not dropping a scoop of ice cream in a beer, like what Becky's talking about here with the stout. So kind of put those things in different categories. But yeah, okay, challenge accepted. I gotta get a nice. There's a milk stout around, which is that one from Two Brothers. Is that a milk stout?
No, it's just an imperial stout.
An imperial stout. Okay,
yeah.
So there's a couple.
I think that's
really...
a better way to go. I mean, what flavors are coming with that ice cream. I would get as pure of a stout as you can get.
Yeah,
true enough. There's a couple really good imperial stouts around here. I'll give it a whack, and if
Old Rasputin. Excuse me.
Well, okay. So do you know where I am, Becky? That Jason's in our home turf of Darien, Illinois, but
yep.
I actually am out in Virginia, so I'm in a slightly different beer market out here. But yeah, there's a bunch of really good kind of imperial IPAs, so I may have to give that a shot and kind of go against the grain a bit.
George is formerly of Downers Grove, Illinois, and he found himself in the greater Richmond area, which statistically is the 7th best and friendliest city for the craft beer world. Or how do they write that up, George? I'm butchering that.
7th biggest, I think, is what it was. I mean, Virginia itself is the 3rd biggest wine state outside of California and Oregon.
Okay.
And I think honestly that 7th is outdated for Richmond. I think it's actually bigger than that now.
Wow. Okay.
But yeah, Richmond is a very friendly craft brew city, and home to Jason and I's favorite craft brewery, Hardywood,
I had to try it.
in Richmond.
Yeah. Okay. Game on.
Every winter
Pleasure.
they make this gingerbread stout that'll just knock your socks off, let me tell you.
Ha ha.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah,
ginger stout. Come on.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right.
Those bready notes, let's not forget.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh,
It is amazing.
It will. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So Becky, you have a home brewing background as well, correct?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes,
nice.
I do.
Okay. All
I
right.
play with things. I did homebrew. I haven't done it in a little bit, but we call ourselves Full Head Field Brewing, and it's awesome. And our first beer was actually a black IPA with Sriracha Ace. Woot woot.
Oh, okay.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Spice beer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We and everything was named after a metal band. So it was Ace of Spades, and then we had Raining Blood. It was a blood orange. Blood orange. Was it Saison? I think so. Yes.
Okay.
And then
Would probably go well. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just love beer. I didn't always love beer. But then I got into the whole science of it, and then I just started geeking out. Like that's how the thing is. Because I wanted to be a chef, but I have so many food allergies that I couldn't even get into that. So this is kind of like my foodie kind of avenue to get and experiment with that. And I love experimenting with fruits. Even like, so I was thinking, okay, riddle me this, Batman. This was literally like an hour ago. Okay. So I was thinking, like, I was like conjuring up like a gin and tonic kind of feel, but instead of like a really dry kind of Pilsner with juniper berries, do you think that would work? Go.
I see where you're going with that. I think a dry Pilsner with juniper berries would work. Whether or not it would evoke kind of the
I was worried about
gin
that
and
aspirin.
tonic.
Yeah. Like I'm like the aspirin. I mean, like, isn't that funny?
Yeah. So I think in order to really evoke, and I'm not sure this is a good idea, but in order to really evoke like gin and tonic, I think you're going to have to go with something really dry.
Right.
Like almost a brute.
A brute,
brute
yeah.
IPA
Ooh, good
kind of
ideas.
style
Okay.
to really evoke that.
All right. These are
Yeah.
See, this is why I wanted to talk to you guys about it.
Yeah. Yeah, you went right where I was going to go. Yeah, the Pilsner is, may not be the ideal base for that, but I think a brute or like a light-bodied American ale or maybe even a cream ale, I think would be a good direction to go.
Okay.
This may be controversial, and you guys can jump all over this if it is, but you maybe could play around with a Saison base.
Ooh, I was also thinking that. Not gonna lie to you.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
can really dry out a Saison too.
Yes.
That's
so
true.
I've actually had a Saison that was aged in a gin barrel, and it was amazing.
Yeah, that might work.
How strong was that?
Oh, it was like 8.7, almost like 9.2. Like it was.
Was the gin just really like
It was
in your
really
face?
good. I think they just emptied the gin down and just
figured.
poured it right in.
That's
like,
what I'm picturing.
Yeah.
So Brian asked, and this is a decent enough question, would those berries make it bitter? Because they do have a bit of a tart flavor profile to them.
I believe it. I mean, I believe that would be the point of it, is to add that juniper kind of, even medicinal in a good way, if that's a thing. So,
well, and that's the question: is that a good thing? Because like a gin and tonic has that very kind of medicinal quality to it. So whether or not you're trying to evoke gin and tonic, that may work, but is that a good thing in a beer is the next question. So that's an interesting, okay.
I feel like I want to give some advice around this. So if you're a home brewer and this brings some inspiration to you, what are some things that maybe that they could do to minimize some of that effect? See, I would picture this as maybe a secondary edition.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I wouldn't put it in the primary. There would definitely be a secondary kind of thing, and maybe even roasting or add some to bring out kind of to alleviate some of that raw juniper berry, I would either roast them a little bit,
That's
and then
interesting.
put it in that way. So
Right.
If you roast them a little bit, number one, that's gonna kind of sanitize and pasteurize them a little
Mhm.
bit, but
Eh?
also it's gonna bring out a little bit of the sweetness
Yes.
and counteract some of the tartness. So to Brian's point, I think that could counteract some of those more astringent
Yes.
medicinal characteristics is the word I'm looking for of the juniper berries. So that'd be interesting.
Yep. So
Okay.
that was my plan. Literally an hour ago, it came into my head. I'm like, ooh. So
Well, it's a bit of a mad scientist play, but you know.
that's how I roll.
Yeah. So,
I
Cold
am.
crash the crap out of it after you're done.
Oh, yeah.
because you want
Oh,
that
yeah,
to be
absolutely.
clear. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah. So I got a question for you. Is like when we talk to people, and one of the things that I know I have, and I think Jason has felt this too, is as we learn more about craft brewing, the brewing process, and off flavor specifically, it's kind of a balance between really understanding what we're drinking and appreciating it, and not
Yes.
becoming a beer snob that just picks out every flaw that you can possibly imagine. Is that kind of an occupational hazard for you a little bit?
A little bit. I mean, especially since like I shouldn't be complaining that my homework is like during class. I have to drink a beer during a class 3 times a week. Oh,
Oh darn.
rough life.
Greatest school program
So
ever.
sad. But I feel like I don't want to get to the point where I'm like super critical of everything. I want to still enjoy it. So it's kind of like putting like, my other hat off and being like, okay, I'm just going to enjoy this beer. My friend made this beer. If he asks, I'm not going to be like that guy that's like, "Burp, burp, 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 burp."
Right.
But I also feel it's important to keep your palate awake. I feel like so much like you've got to take a break and like drink something else. That's why I like drinking the hop tea, because it does the alpha acids do wash off your tongue. And I do like just drinking like regular tea or drink water, important things. But I guess, did I answer your question? I don't know. Yeah.
Do you find yourself just over analyzing everything that you drink, or
That's
can
my
you turn it off?
personality.
And well, I understand. Believe me, I do.
So I overanalyze everything. I find it's fun to talk with people that aren't overanalyzing things and seeing what they taste or smell, or like showing someone how to do some proper smelling techniques. Sometimes you don't want to get all up in there to get a smell. You want to smell it far away, because the olfactory senses, if they're kind of attacked, you don't smell anything.
You're overwhelmed.
Yeah, they're overwhelmed, and your brain is that powerful that it'll just not smell anything.
Well, I remember a story. So a buddy of Jason and mine really likes delirium tremens. Have you had that before?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Yes.
So quintessential Belgian beer. And when I tried it with him, when I drank it with him, I was like, oh man, taste that banana flavor, because it just is so present in that style, and especially in delirium tremens. Like, you just get
absolutely
banana through line through the whole thing. And he was a little mad at me because he's like, oh, son of a bitch, that's all I can taste now.
Yeah, isn't that horrible? It's like, oh, that's why I never read the descriptions. I'll read descriptions after I taste it. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, I get where you're going from here.
Yeah.
Where everyone's like, oh, everything is juicy. I'm like, not everything is juicy.
Not
I mean,
everything
it
is
is a
juicy.
liquid. It's going to be wet. Let's be real. But yeah, no, I feel like I'm sadly I'm more critical, but I'm also being able to take myself out of it and appreciate just having a beverage with my friends and
Nice.
turning that off.
Okay, good. Yeah, I mean, yeah, always good.
Or also, have you guys ever done the cheddar trick?
No.
Okay, so next time you're with your friends, you get a hoppy beer, and you bring people that don't really like hops. Let's just be real. And you make them take a sip. And then you have them take a bite of like an aged white cheddar, and make sure they coat their tongue. And then they drink their, and have them take another sip. The hops go away because that
Okay.
fat covers the tongue, so they taste malt, and it freaks some hop heads out. Freaks them out. They're like, "Where did my hops go?" And I'm like, "It's okay, it's okay. We'll get through this together." But yeah,
That reminds me of another. There's something else that you can eat that instantly takes bitter and flips it to sweet, or
Yes.
vice versa. I can't remember what it is, but
it's like
this,
a berry. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
it's some berry that does like kind of a
it's like
similar thing. So
mulberry. It's a mulberry.
is it a mulberry? Okay,
Yeah.
All right.
I'm getting images just hearing this about the wine and cheese combination. Is this just an extension of that?
I mean, it can be, absolutely. I mean, this was just we went to a brew fest and we were with it was a class on pairing food with beer, and this was something that the guy from not Mad Hatter, como se dice, New Holland, who always he was the one that showed us this, and it was just mind blowing. I'm like, this is amazing.
Hey, Becky, we have a question from Carl, so I'm going to break in
Hi,
here
Carl.
and just ask that.
Oh God.
We
So
are
I have
taking homebrewing questions as we do each week, so please send us a comment. We will answer.
Absolutely. He says, I have a couple questions for you, but I'll start with this one. I made a mini 5-liter batch and bottled into 750 milliliter swing tops. The first 3 bottles got infected. The theory is that bacteria took hold in the tap after checking the gravity and got flushed into the first couple bottles. Have you ever had this happen? Any thoughts on cleaning the tap before bottling?
Oh yeah, I always cleaned everything. Like sanitation was like second nature, and I always, even in the so I went from moving it from the secondary to I use bottling bucket. So the bottling bucket, I just sanitized the bejeebies out of that.
Yeah, that for sure.
Yeah.
So when Carl says tap, though, I'm what's coming to my head is like a draft system.
That's what I was thinking too.
I'm thinking maybe he's using a draft system and filling from that, maybe like a tube off of a draft tap or something. And so, Carl, there could be some efficacy to what you're saying, that basically it got a little bit there was some bacteria on the tap from testing it,
could be, or just air in general,
or just air in general.
Air in general. Old beer can make that happen really fast.
Yeah, and so a couple things I can suggest for you. Number one, make sure your bottles are completely sanitized, including the caps, especially if you're using those swing tops. Make sure your caps are sanitized, because that the rubber on those can
the gaskets
the gaskets can get infected.
Yes.
Okay, fermentation bucket. Okay, so definitely make sure that is sanitized. If you're using a fermentation bucket and you have a wand off of it, make sure that wand is completely not satisfied, but sanitized, because that can definitely be a source of bacteria.
Yeah, and you want to actually replace those after about 6 months. Every 6 months, you want to make sure. Well, not the tubing. I do every other brew day or brew series. I'll change the tubing out, because I only have like a tube like this big to go from the canning into the thing.
Right. So, I mean, the rule of thumb there is hard plastic lasts a little bit longer. You can go about a year on that. Soft plastic, you want to replace pretty frequently to make sure that nothing gets into those.
I would pass the eye test.
Yeah.
If the tubing looks discolored or it looks a little bit dirty, just get rid of it.
Yeah.
Right. If you're managing those tubes properly, you should be dumping in cleaner and sanitizer like right after you're pumping the liquid through it.
Yeah.
And if you do that diligently, then tubing can last a good long time. Is everybody that diligent? Most likely not.
Yeah, I gotta actually replace my tubing now. But anyway, so I would definitely make sure that your gaskets on your swing tops are sanitized, and the bottles themselves, although I'm sure you ran them through some Star Sand or something like that.
Sure.
and just be careful about the remaining bottles, because if there wasn't as much bacteria that got into those over time, that's going to start to grow and is really going to start to present itself. So if they don't taste infected now, get to drinking so they don't taste infected later.
Yep.
You know.
Oh, that's the best advice we've given so far.
Get drinking.
So, Carl, okay, let's let the secret out. What style of beer was this that was made up of the mini 5-gallon batch?
Yeah.
Leave us a
5
comment.
liter. Yeah.
I did say 5-gallon, didn't I? 5 liter. Sorry.
Yeah. Now you're slipping in those freedom units, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Carl is our listener from New Zealand.
New
is that right?
Zealand.
Oh,
Yes, he is.
awesome.
Yeah.
Hello from America, New Zealand. That still is so cool.
But yeah, that would definitely be the suggestion that I'd have. Yeah. So if you said you have more, bring them on, Carl. We'll be glad to address them.
Yes, absolutely. So, Becky, what inspired the beginning of the Cicerone journey?
What inspired me? People said I couldn't do it. No, well, kind of.
I've done things for less reasons.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. I always want to challenge people. I worked at the French pastry school. I can say this. Hi chefs. And I always challenge them that they use brewer's yeast and I like to use the other yeast. And it was working there. I was like, I really wanted to get into the kitchen and do what I like to do. So fast forward a couple of years, life happens. And I just decided that I'm like, you know what? I'm not a corporate person. So eventually, like, this is going to lead to a road that hopefully at some point in my life, I could either work for a brewery and or open up my own beer bar theater thing.
Okay.
Which is going to be
Beer
awesome.
bar theater thing. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I like
I'm
that
going to combine all of my loves in one spot. I mean, if I got to go to rehearsal, I'm going to stay there.
You have worn many hats as a brewer, a cicerone, and you've done theater directing as well. I know
Theater
that.
directing, yep. Stage manager. I do independent films. I think, wink, wink. Gaffer and grip for those. So I feel like I'm a creative person, but my day jobs, I'm an accountant.
So you and Jason are cut from a similar cloth.
We are so midbrained.
Yes,
so
we are.
midbrained. It's not even funny.
That's awesome. It really is. And honestly, I mean, what a cool career change.
Yeah.
And to gravitate to that in the way that you have,
Thank
and
you.
Just with the background of all these hats, that's just so cool.
It's gonna be fun. And I learned something new. I got so excited when I learned how to use a D system coupler draft system and how to connect a keg to the draft system. I'm like, oh, this is so cool. Like I'm like,
it is
so
kind
now,
of impressive how it works.
right?
You
It's like
just twist and lock, and you're
twist and let me go. I was like, all right. So now when the world opens up a little more, I'm gonna be like, let me check out your kegs for a moment there. I want to see your foam on beer system if you have one and all that stuff like that. So the fobs.
right.
So we like to call them the biz.
So as part of a Cicerone, are you guys also trained in? So you're trained in like hooking up and cleaning draft systems and things. Are you trained kind of soup to nuts as far as like how to if a company said to you, all right, we want you to be our Cicerone, how do we set this up? Could you do that from the ground up?
Yeah, so that is
Okay.
part of it. The whole like brewing, like we are test on all of the temperature regulations and stuff and the whole brewing process from
Okay.
more on. So yeah,
Nice.
I got my cheat sheet beer diagram T-shirt. Not gonna lie, last week I'm very, very excited. I'm like, all right, Boyle, where am I at now? Okay, go this way. All right, cool.
All right.
So what beers are you particularly enjoying as of late, besides the one right in front of you?
I wish to say that I'm a beer snob. I'm not. I like a lot of things. I try to support local as much as I can.
Sure.
I went to Rabid Brewing in Homewood last week. They are so nice and so cool. That they're like, I noticed a lot of breweries are doing the whole hard cider thing.
True.
I'm not offended. I think it's kind of a fun idea. But also I'm really loving I love the whole hazy IPA thing. I've loved it since day one. I have been a Mosaic girl all day. But I also love the whole, is it the Berliner slushy trend, which is happening, which at Microphone and like all these places, like Noon Whistle is doing that. I love that kind of vibe, like summer vibe. Like, all right, we're gonna be. So I don't know. It depends. Honestly, this is so Cicerone of me. It depends on what I'm eating.
Okay. No, that's a totally fair response.
So, I guess then that leads into the next question. It's a little bit of a pop quiz. So, Cicerone, one of the big things is pairing. Is so if someone has a nice white fish with a rice pilaf and some green vegetables, like what pairs well with that?
Does there a lot of garlic in the dish?
In a white fish with a
With the pilaf? It's more of like spring vegetables. Like
it's probably a lighter kind of lemony kind of flavor profile.
Yeah, I would go with this. I would go with this standard saison. Even.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's summery. Even a Hefeweizen would be delicious with that. It'll bring out the little toasty notes in the rice pilaf.
Okay.
To challenge some people, I would go with maybe an amber, just to be a little more challenging.
Okay.
It depends on the amber and it depends on how hoppy this amber is. I kind of like, I would do like an Amarillo. I just love that hop. Let's just be real. But that's if you want to challenge your palate, I would do with kind of an Amarillo pale ale and just see how that works.
George, I feel like you were just trying to order for me.
It really was.
Because that is absolutely something that I would just grab.
Yeah, you and me both. But yeah,
exactly. Oh my God,
sounded good, didn't it? Like a nice lemony whitefish with it. Yeah.
I mean, you can go standard like the farmhouse saison, and that's already lemony. But I know I can't do normal.
So okay, let's do a second round of this. So let's go a different direction. Let's say if I'm ordering, some type of red meat.
Yarg.
Steak.
Oh, red meat.
Yeah. Okay. Let's say, it can be done medium well to well. Let's just say that. It's a little bit burnt.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm getting specific, I know. And probably a green vegetable to go with it.
Not like a nice potato kind of, like a baked potato. Yeah.
Oh. Does that if I'm sure that probably does change the answer. Yeah, you're probably right.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so green vegetable that let's see. Are you standard answer, I'd probably go for a barley wine just to add that red wine kind of vibe to that. Okay. If I want to be a challenging person, I would try to go for an Anto chili stout with that.
Interesting.
Anto chili stout.
Yeah. Like a spice stout. Yeah. There's one by there's so many of them out there. Like a Mexican style. Yeah.
So does it kind of follow, so when you're talking about red meat and you're talking about wine, you're talking about red wines, more full-bodied kind of thing. And when you're talking about lighter flavors like fish, you're talking about white wines, Zinfandel, Pinot Grigio, those kinds of things. Does that kind of follow a similar...
You want to kind of match the viscosity?
Viscosity?
Thank you. Como se dice? Yes. So I try to match that because you don't really want to you can't really have a really thin bodied beer with really rich. I mean, you can. It'll kind of cleanse the palate.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I like, but if you're doing a true pairing, you want to kind of match those two together. But I'm also one of those that wants to challenge people to not always do white fish, white beer kind of thing. So or Sorry, go.
Is there a place for, because you kind of, if you have a multi-course meal, is there a place for like a little 3 ounce or 6 ounce pour of something really light, like a pilsner or something like to cleanse the palate
Yeah,
between
absolutely,
courses?
absolutely. Like how people use Italian ice or some, grappa or whatever,
Okay.
just a cleanser to go through that. Yeah, absolutely. Or even like, I wouldn't do double IPA, or just like a nice hoppy pale, American pale ale. That is a perfect palate cleanser in between courses. If you're
Interesting.
gonna do that.
All right. So
I love that
Carl,
grappa just came up on this webcast.
I know, right? Yeah. The old grap. So Carl has a few other comments here. This one kind of caught my eye here. He was talking about it got partially infected, but let's set that aside for a second. He says 99% German pills, 10% Cara pills.
Okay.
So this was 10:30 to 10:11. Jason, you can do that in your head. I'm pretty sure that's like 4%.
That's really
Too
light.
light. Yeah,
Really light, yeah. And then so he's been doing Gruit style beers, which we've talked about a few times with Carl. Are beers that don't use hops
Right.
for preservation and bittering, but use other things. Like he was using, in this case, mugwort. In order to add those preservation and bittering characteristics, though it apparently did use a little bit of Saz in the whirlpool. This whole concept of Gruit beers is definitely an interesting one that I think we both, Jason, need to explore and see how that comes out. Do you have any experience with them, Becky, as far as...
I want you're talking about that. I'm like, I want to change my answer for whitefish and don't leave it goes. The goza beer. Oh, that
Okay.
little saltiness, and that would be so
Good
lovely.
call. Good call.
So lovely.
And Goza tends to be they can be a Gruit style.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, it's very minimal hops. So, but it could also, I've had it Gruit style as well. So,
All right. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that was okay. Someone tricked me and told me it was mead. Let's just be real. The first time I had a Gruit beer, yeah, I love this style. I feel it's hard. It's harder to hide. Like, let's just be honest. It's really easy to throw a bunch of hops at something and hide your technique. It's
True.
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
So-
talk about pilsners and in Helles to a certain extent, but those lighter touch type beers are really technical beers because
Yes.
it's hard to hide off flavors and things like that. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Well, let's also remember that one of the functions of hops in beer is to be a preservative of the
absolutely.
flavors in it. You do lose that to some extent by changing the element.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Though my understanding of the Gruit style is like those herbs that they put in,
Herbs.
like mugwort, do act as a bit of a preservative. I don't
Okay.
know how effective they are
Yeah, okay.
compared to hops, but they do act as a preservative in the beer as well.
Okay.
But-
I don't know enough about that, but I would certainly research it before I'm designing a batch around it.
On a homebrew scale, it typically doesn't matter because we'll drink it first anyway. So
It's fine.
Well, on that note, I have a Baltic Porter that's in a keg here at the house.
Coming.
Well, before you say that,
Eh?
that's kind of the sad news. And I'm getting a reminder that there is a life cycle to homebrewing, unfortunately, because you don't have all the elements of a brewery that kind of protect your product long term.
Right.
So I've had this beer in a keg here at the house for 4 to 5 months. It was amazing between months 1 and 2. I submitted it for a competition. I got judges' scorecards off of it. You know, on a
Cool.
scale of 50, I got 33 and 34, which I was satisfied with.
That's
Felt
awesome.
great, but I poured a glass about a week ago, and
Vinegar?
No,
Or-
it's just oxygen. You know, the
Oxygenated?
oxygen caught
Okay.
up to it. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So,
Yeah, that's
you
a
know,
bummer.
well, it's a reminder of a couple things. Number one, I need to get brewing,
Hmm.
more so I can replace the elements. But yeah, there's just, um, that's a factor that you have. So
That's
it's good to, if you have homebrew, don't let it sit around. Drink
yeah.
it,
Well,
share it, enjoy it, and get on to the next batch. There you
that's
go.
been one of the big problems over the last year or so because of COVID and things. We're not able to share our beer as much as we used to, so it tends to
Yes.
Yeah.
last longer in our fridge. It's like, okay, grand scheme of things, it's not even a first world problem. It is a home brewer.
Our own little world problem.
Our little niche problem,
Right?
sure.
It is our problems, though.
But it's my problem. My cellar's too full.
But at the same time, it does tend to be an issue where we're not able to share it as much as we're used to. So we do run into ones where they just age out on us. And
Yeah.
and unfortunately, something like a Baltic Porter, that's much more
That's-
malt forward, much less
Mhm.
hops. You're going to get
Mhm.
less preservation in there.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of
Sure.
sugar in there.
There
Oh, yeah.
there is definitely a lot of sugar, yeah.
Yeah. So
So, but I do have a cream ale that's finished fermenting. I did have to have a second yeast pitch
Oh,
to
okay.
that's a whole different story, but it's finished up. I'm about to do a short diacetyl rest on it,
Okay.
and then I'll cold crash it and into a keg, and I've got
Nice.
homebrew available on tap here at the house again.
nice. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Speaking of homebrew in the works, so I have stated that my first brew day in quite some time is going to be on Big Brew Day, May 1st. And I've been working on my recipe for my cinnamon saison that I would like to share with both of you and get your feedback on
Okay.
if you're open.
Of
Yeah.
course.
What kind of
Alright.
cinnamon are you planning to use?
Cinnamon sticks.
What?
It's a Madagascar.
country?
Madagascar. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's a little small, isn't it? I don't know if I can zoom in. Can you guys see that?
I could lie and
oh
say yes,
boy.
but no.
Yeah.
Okay. Huh. All right. Let me see if I can. Let me stop sharing here and see if I share the application, if that's better.
Better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we're getting there.
All right. So this is a saison that I am had a lot of my saisons since I came out here. I've kind of abandoned the Back to the Future thing, Jason, because I am not okay with doing Back to the Future beers without you. And I have started using astronomy terms. So this one's Soul
Cool.
Saison, and it is it's a saison profile, straight up, and it is 8 pounds of Pilsen malt, which is about 70% of it, 2 pounds of Vienna, 12 ounces of caramel 40, and 12 ounces of carapils.
Okay.
The hop profile is Citra at 20 minutes to add 27 IBUs. And then I'm going to add cinnamon sticks, which amounts to about 2 full cinnamon sticks into the boil in the last 5 minutes is kind of where I'm thinking of going with that.
So, what inspired the hop profile that you have so far?
It's actually a modification of an old saison recipe that I've had. So
Okay.
if you guys have other thoughts, that I'm open to that.
Okay. Can you scroll down to the bottom
Sure.
where the profile stuff is?
So it's pretty middle of the road. It's a little higher on the ABV at about 6.5%.
Okay.
And colors on the slightly lower end. Like if I scroll over and up, you can see it's a little bit more yellow.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, So 1054 OG. Final gravity target is 1006, so nice and dry. And because I didn't want a sweetness from the saison to compete with the spiciness of the cinnamon.
Did you intend to have this as a double infusion?
No, that actually
Okay.
needs to change. This will be a single infusion.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder if that
This will be
changes
in
your
my-
OG at all.
This will be in my Herm system that I have. So let me single infusion light body. Didn't change the OG at
Yeah,
all.
it did not. Okay, got it.
Yeah. So, and then
10
actually, I don't know why this says corn sugar. This should say keg.
Yeah. Ale 2-stage. Okay.
Yeah. So 1054, 6%. Nice middle of the road saison. What do you guys think?
So okay, couple things. What yeast is it that you're using again?
It
Why
is Y yeast, Belgian saison.
Okay, so do you happen to have nearby what that temperature range is?
I don't, but I can look that up real quick.
Yeah. So last time I made a saison, it was an education for me because the saison yeast do ferment hotter than your
Yes, they
standard
do.
American ale yeasts. And if you're not controlling your temperature, that keeps it in like the 75 to 80 degree range. Yeah, kiss it goodbye.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So Sean asked a question. He says, very interesting. I wonder how the cinnamon will play off the cinnamon. Sean, I'm assuming you mean cinnamon play off the yeast, maybe?
Yeah, maybe.
So what yeast? I'm a fan of the Omega Saisonstein. So I've actually been, I'm potentially maybe going to swap this out for either a yeast out of RVA, if they have it available, which is the Richmond Yeast Lab. Or there's one, actually a new one up by Dulles that my local brewery has exclusively switched to as far as their yeast provider. And they're called Jasper, I want to say.
Aren't those RVA yeast additions like 200 billion cells at a time?
Yeah, there are a ton
Yeah.
of cells. They're like the Omega that they just do a ton of cells in there.
Yep,
And it
that's
is
what I thought.
Jasper yeasts. So I've been considering going with them, see if they can do homebrew scale as well, since a lot of what they do right now is commercial. Omega, I'd love to. Unfortunately, they don't have distribution out this way, so it's a little harder to get in an easy fashion that it will preserve the yeast. But you know, we do love Omega here on A Nice Place to Brew for sure.
Sure
Were you thinking of the cinnamon being mainly in the nose, or do you want that spicy earthiness?
I was hoping to get a little bit of that spiciness, but definitely as you're drinking it in the nose, I want to get a nice good hit of cinnamon in there.
Were you thinking of dry hopping with a cinnamon stick as well in the secondary? Or
Thought about that.
Okay.
So I have a conical, and so once I cut off the tube, I thought about throwing another cinnamon stick in. Maybe that's been like steeped in a little bit of rum or something like that too.
yeah,
yeah.
because even if you want to like steep it in, and this is spoiler crazy, some cayenne water to add some of that spiciness. So steep the cinnamon stick in the cayenne water a little, like maybe 5 minutes before you throw it in, and it'll add that spiciness, but you won't have that cayenne floating around and being annoying.
Okay, yeah.
So it's kind of like a red hot kind of cinnamon instead of the traditional, I'm having a lovely cup of tea cinnamon. So
Okay.
I would
Yeah,
play with
so
that.
just so you guys know, you asked about the temperature range. The Y yeast that I'm considering right now is 70 to 95 degrees.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So even at the mid range, you're talking about managing this at 85 to 90 degrees. So
Right.
plan accordingly.
Yeah, I can manage that in you know, if I even just put it in my guest room like I do sometimes, that is usually stays about 70 degrees, and then plus catalytic motion inside of the fermenter, that's going to get around like 75 80 degrees.
Yeah.
But
So-
remember though, that may
They're
not be
hungry.
enough. That may not be enough for it.
Right.
Yeah,
Like
true
I would
enough.
be aiming for as high into that range as you can go. That's
Yeah,
what
I
that's
have
what I
a setup that I've been considering trying. I have a reptile lamp that I've been considering
Oh,
Oh,
trying
okay.
that's a
in
good
my
call.
fermentation chamber
Yeah.
to warm it up.
I've done a heating pad on low, underneath.
Okay.
Yeah, I've done that. So
The trouble these days with a heating pad is finding one that won't time out on you.
we'll stay
you know?
on. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Stupid safety rules.
Becky,
Stupid.
I think you're getting a fan. The
Oh,
cayenne
yeah,
idea is
Sean.
going over well.
Yay!
Yeah. Oh,
and-
like a Red Hots
Hot.
kind of thing.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
that's an interesting idea.
Or even like Fireball. Oh, Fireball
Right.
soaked cinnamon
Fireball
stick.
saison.
Oh.
That is not what I was thinking of, but it's an intriguing idea.
Who knows? Ooh.
So other elements here. I think your malt profile is perfect. Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't
Agreed.
change anything about it. Yeah. The hops I think has some room for some tweaking.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think you can either add another one because I feel like the Citra is gonna be too. I feel like it needs a friend. Like I feel like it's. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay.
So I imagine the driver for this 20-minute edition is just the alphas because you
Yeah.
want to land on that scale where you did.
I did.
What I would do is I would maybe treat that as a bittering edition, cut that maybe in half, and change
Okay.
that to like 45 minutes.
So maybe okay. So Sean's saying is Saz, and I do like me some noble hops.
So
Yeah.
Saz is a lower alpha hop, isn't it?
It
is.
is. It is.
Okay.
It's- yeah.
All right. So maybe it's twofold. Maybe you cut the Citra in half, push
Oh,
that
yeah.
back, add the
Right.
Saz as a late addition.
Yeah,
Add the sauce as a late addition,
Yeah.
just purely for flavor.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay. Just doing a quick Google search for Saison hops. That's a couple other options that came
Goldie?
up with.
I don't know if I like
that would make sense.
It might, but a couple other options that came up with was Northern Brewer, Palisade, Galena, and the one that really kind of stands out to me is Amarillo.
Yeah, I was thinking that. Ooh, like, sorry.
Okay.
Fresh Amarillo, like whole hops, is magical. I just want to say right now, it is magical.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So even just having that as like a late edition will just change and bring some. Yes, you want to say
So-
something, Jason? Go.
Yes. So is that maybe going to interfere with the cinnamon
So
flavor?
the cinnamon flavor. I was thinking that as well.
Yeah.
So cinnamon is aggressive. I mean, if you're only doing 2, I don't want it to get lost. So
Right.
I don't. Yeah. So
So I'm
So the
leaning
Amar-
more.
oh, sorry.
I'm loath to say it, Sean, but I'm leaning your direction with the sauce because it's a nice,
Okay.
yeah, no, it's a good idea.
nice
It's a
subtle
great idea.
hoppy flavor.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm down with it. Good job,
Yeah.
Sean. Proud of you.
Yeah. Yeah. So okay. So here's what I'm thinking is that I pull the Citra back to like 35, 40 minutes, and then add it and reduce the amount, and add in Saz at about 15. And that'll give just a little bit, like maybe half an ounce, and then still put in the cinnamon sticks. And Brian is wondering if I should move it to the whirlpool.
That's
and
an
I actually
interesting
thought
idea.
about that
Yeah.
Yeah.
because really just that constant movement of that liquid.
Yeah.
Adaptation in the
Really-
layers in that cinnamon stick, it needs that stirring action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Right
I
on.
like
I like
that
it.
idea.
Right on.
So
I like it
if I do the Saz at about 15 minutes, let that get in there, and then really do the whirlpool with the cinnamon sticks, really
Yeah.
get that flavor mixed in there. I think that
I
has
like it.
promise. I like
like it.
that. Okay. I'll make those alterations.
I think you've got a solid saison recipe.
Yeah,
here,
it's gonna be
George.
delicious.
Wow.
I want
think
to have
you're-
that with some ribs and call it a day.
I think you're going to find yourself scaling this up in a place like in the not so distant future.
You think so? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Possibly at Mad Hatchet Brewing Company. I'm not volunteering you, Sean. Sorry.
Oh.
Oh, okay. Here's another comment. Not for this saison, but I love Sriracha Ace in other saison. It has a lemon dill flavor that is awesome. Don't think it will
Yes.
go well with cinnamon though.
Not at all, but it's so good.
Yeah.
So good.
I do like, so I think I'm going to try this one with cinnamon, but I do like the idea of later on adding in a more peppery element to try to get like the Red Hots candy
Yeah.
kind of, motif in a saison. I think that might work really well.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Oh, George, it's on.
I know, I saw
It's
that.
on.
Bye, George.
It's been started.
Oh man. All right, I'll let you know how it comes out, Sean, and we can go from there.
Okay, we did not get to all the homebrewing questions, did we?
We did actually. Oh, you know what? No.
Oh, hi, Carl.
I did it. We accidentally overbittered it doing a first wort hop with 30 grams of 5-alpha acid in a 5-liter batch. Ended
About
up
60
around
IBU.
60 IBU. Woo!
Woo!
My OG was 1037. Have you ever overbittered a batch? Did you attempt to fix it or roll with it?
This is a great question.
This is a great question.
Yeah.
Yes is the answer. Have definitely overbittered a batch before.
Yeah.
Um,
There is not an easy answer.
Yeah.
I think
no.
honestly, this is the simplest answer, and it's not a simple answer, but blending
Yeah.
blending.
becomes an option that you end up looking at.
Make it into a barbecue sauce. I've done that.
Wow. Okay.
It's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, we're good. Game on.
How does that happen? I don't know the construction of barbecue sauce well enough.
Oh yeah, so how some people have Coca-Cola base, so you boil down the beer and then you add. I'm allergic to tomatoes, so
Okay.
I use banana ketchup and then you kind of add in your spices and there you go. The best
Okay.
that word again, the thickness of the liquid. But yeah, it's
So do you use it kind of in place of the vinegar element?
kind of.
Okay.
And a flavoring. I mean, I did add a little bit of vinegar just to brighten it up, not so much the bitterness, obviously,
Right.
because it was a super bitter amber that we will never talk with again. But but yeah, no, and it was really good with pork, like pulled
Okay.
pork. So we use that kind of as a barbecue sauce to marinade. Yes, how can I help you?
So Carl, if you're not a barbecue fan, blending is an option. The other option is just waiting, because you have to remember the original reason that India Pale Ale was called India Pale Ale is because they hopped the shit out of it and then sent it to India. And by the time it got there, it mellowed out. And if you just put it in a cellar and forget about it for a little while, it will mellow out over time, but we're talking about a significant amount of time. So it depends on how long you're willing to wait for that beer. But if you do make another batch of the same type of beer and underhop it, you can then blend them together and get something that you are looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now there is an oxygen effect to this. Let's not forget, and I think
Absolutely.
I think it's twofold here. I mean, obviously, in the method of blending, I would have a lot of research to do on that myself at a home brewing level, but there is significant risk with oxygen exposure with most methods. Second of all, is just the same situation that I found myself in here with the Baltic Porter that we were talking about earlier. Point is, overhopping is really difficult to come back from. And even if you do what George was saying about waiting, you may have just kind of the life cycle oxygen effect that you find yourself in.
Yeah,
So-
but wouldn't the overhopping and the extra preservative effect help to counteract that?
It depends on how you're storing it too. Let's just be
Yeah.
real.
True.
Correct storage is
Nice,
important.
cool, dry place.
Cool, dry area, exactly.
Okay. That may be a question for a beer judge
Yeah. Or
So-
Cicerone.
or Cicerone.
We're gonna have. I'm new. It's my first day.
No, it's all right. That's all right. And Brian is also suggesting you make a soup base from it.
It's my friend. Or chili.
Yeah.
Oh,
Or
come
chili.
on,
Ooh,
guys.
I've had some really good chilies that have a beer base to them.
Or even queso, a beer queso.
Beer cheese.
Put that in
Okay.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
beer
because let's
cheese.
be real, the cheese will mellow out some of those alpha
Yeah.
acids in.
You know what?
The hops.
That may be the best idea we've had so
Fondue.
far. Yeah.
Yeah. Make
Yes.
you see a 5 liters of this overhopped beer. Make like what 10 liters of beer cheese.
Is that done? I'm not offended. I'm excited.
Carl, you got a couple options here. So.
Hope we helped you out there.
This is really solid advice. I mean, really.
It is.
Oh man.
All right.
What else we got here? Do we miss any?
I think that's it. The rest is just talking about the saison. All right.
It is. It is.
Oh.
All right. Well, before we wrap this up, I'm trying to think what other homebrewing related elements do the both of us have going on. We got Big Brew Day coming up.
Yeah. When is that?
May
That is
1st.
May 1st.
Mayday, Mayday.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. Which I don't know if it's official, but I do feel like they aim for Big Brew Day to be on the first Saturday of May.
I think that
Okay.
is official, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's when they want to do it. So
Right. And the online version of HomebrewCon is coming up in
in June.
June. Yes.
Yeah.
And let's all just collectively just put our focus on the world coming back to normal and that we can have HomebrewCon in person in Pittsburgh in 2022, which
Yeah.
I think
Yay! I'm down.
yes,
Road trip.
I'm very,
Done.
very excited about that.
We're still planning our road trip up to the only official Trappist brewery in the U.S. in Boston, outside of Boston.
Yes. Oh.
So we may have to. So Brian says he's doing a mango milkshake IPA. Brian, are you brewing that on Big Brew Day? So
I hope the answer is yes.
yeah,
That'd be a
that'd be-
huge hit on the social media platforms that day.
Jason, are you brewing on Big Brew Day?
So I'm not fully committed to it yet. The only thing keeping me is the COVID vaccine, because certain somebody is getting the COVID vaccine on that very day. So the condition of the
Yeah,
condition will be
yeah.
is somewhat in question about being able to hold up through that. So
Dude,
we
I had
sure.
my
will see.
second shot. What was it? Tuesday, and I just started feeling better today at noon, like 11.
Okay,
like,
all right.
what?
So you went through, was it 2 days of pure pain? Is that what it was?
It was not pleasant, but it was more like I felt like I just couldn't, like I was not inspired to move. Like I was like
Okay,
it
all
hurt.
right.
Like all of my joints hurt.
So
was,
Brew
like, my throat
Day
hurt.
was out of the question.
Yeah, no, like
Yeah.
inspired to move.
Yeah.
Nope. I
Okay.
was like, yeah, I worked from home today, hence this. Yeah, but yeah, no. So
Okay.
Okay.
Well, mine will be on Big Brew Day, unless I have some unfortunate issue with ingredients, which I will be ordering tomorrow. So I will be on our social media platforms talking about how that's going and showing you guys my new setup, because I've been working diligently on rehabbing my brew shed, which is a big reason why I have not done brewing in quite some time. And so hopefully I'll be able to give you guys a tour of all of that relatively soon.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
And one last thing, I will be at this place this coming weekend, world
Nice.
famous Route 66, and I will be helping our own Polly make a imperial stout for a barrel project.
cool.
Okay.
Yep. So, yeah, not on the homebrew scale, but
Still fun.
that's where the time is going. Yes. And,
Oh.
and honestly, my time, helping Polly out at Route 66 is giving me a greater comfort level with things like, and you guys just froze. No, there you are. Okay.
We're here.
Is getting me more comfortable with, the grand, higher setup with pumps and transfers and things like that. And that to me, because I'm a numbers guy and I'm not just like an operations guy, I just don't have that brain. That helps a lot. Like
Okay.
having a platform where I can see that, like not just
Yeah.
once but repeatedly.
Yeah. And Brian, I am super excited because he says he's going to record his magnet dry hop. That's supposed to be hop set up with his beer.
Cool.
Becky, I
Do
don't
you
know
want to
if you've-
retell this? Yeah.
Please
Yeah,
tell the
I don't.
story.
I don't know if you've heard this, but Brian has this setup where he dry hops by putting a magnet inside of his hop bag inside the container up on and a magnet on the outside. And when he's ready to dry hop, he just removes the outside magnet and the bag falls right into the liquid. No oxygen interference or anything
That's-
whatsoever. And so it's one of the more ingenious MacGyver-ish things that
Dude, Bill Nye is
Yeah.
smiling at him right now.
yeah. Yeah, so I'm excited to see that.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Good job, Brian.
Yes.
Yeah.
That may be all I've got homebrew related.
So-
You guys?
I think that's all I got.
I got nothing.
All right. So before we close out, Becky, first of all, fantastic episode. I'm so glad this
Aw,
came together.
yeah,
Thank you so much
absolutely.
for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
For all the people that you've inspired tonight, the ones that want to start their journey as being a Cicerone, where would they start? What kind of resources are out there?
There is obviously you can there's so much material on YouTube just to get your idea about like beer school in general. The Cicerone actually has all of the certified beer server classes are online on YouTube right now.
Oh,
You
wow.
can watch
Okay.
them yourself. You just have to kind of pay for the class, like the classes and like the tests.
Right.
Also just go out to a brewery and talk to people. Try things. I am always about experimentation. Go challenge yourself. Find a random beer that you're like, I know this beer. I love this beer. And then go and like kind of like Chopped. Make, your friend pick ingredients and then try to make something to match with that beer. Like that, like I literally for Valentine's Day, I got a whole bunch of desserts and I'm like, all right, what do I think is going to go with it? And like I had samples and all these little beers. I'm like, Black Forest cake. Will a stout go better? What if I tried this with a Pilsner? What if I tried this with an amber? What if I tried this with a cider? Just all that experiment. Beer is fun.
Yeah.
So that is my thing is just beer is fun and treat it with respect and it'll respect you kind
Right
of.
on. Right on.
So, yeah.
That's a perfect note to close out on.
Yeah.
All right. Our website is www.aniceplacetobrew.com. We will be back here on Facebook and YouTube next Thursday, same time, 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. If you need more A Nice Place to Brew between now and next Thursday, you can check out our YouTube page for all of our past episodes. We also have our audio podcast under the same name, A Nice Place to Brew, that's on all the audio podcasting platforms. Our social media links are Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Nice Place to Brew. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. I hope you have a great weekend. And before we end our episode, we raise a glass one last time, and we say, it takes a lot of good beer to make great beer. Cheers. everyone.
Cheers.